Good morning or afternoon. Here we go. So we are talking about types of symbiosis. We talked about symbiosis for about 3 seconds way back when we were talking about, oh goodness, protist. So this might just sound ever so vaguely familiar, but for most of you, this will be your first time hearing it because I understand how your brains work, and that's perfectly okay. So here we go. So, along with competition and predation, symbiosis is a type of interaction between organisms. So we talked last time about competition. That's when two animals are competing for the same thing. Or plants. Plants actually do compete as well. So let's think of you guys. You compete for best trumpet solo in the band. Or maybe you compete to get your artwork displayed at the art show. Or maybe you're competing for that prime cafeteria seat right on the end near the dish room or near the vending machine so that you can see your friends. Predation, remember that is predator-prey. That's like a lion hunting a zebra. There's all kinds of predator-prey. Insects are actually predators because they prey on leaves or other insects sometimes. But symbiosis is what we're going to talk about today. Symbiosis is any relationship in which two species live closely together and at least one benefits. So, last time we learned stuff, no one was benefiting. In competition, both people are fighting over that resource. You're fighting over that seat in the cafeteria, or you're fighting over that trumpet solo, or you're fighting over the art piece. So no one's happy there. Kind of they get happy at the end, but not really. Predation, obviously one of them's dead, so they're totally not happy. Sure, the predator might be a little happy, but it still isn't like symbiosis. So in symbiosis, one is going to be happy and benefited. And I know some of you get stuck on that word. So benefited means like enhanced or to be made better. So I benefit from having Miss Sewell in the room with me because she provides a second set of eyes and she can help more students along with me. And I can sneak out and go get a snack whenever I want because Miss Sewell's in there and she can do the same. So we benefit from having each other in the classroom. So symbiosis is one is going to be benefited. So there are 3 types of symbiosis that we need to know. The first one is mutualism, the second one is commensalism, and finally it's parasitism. And parasitism should sound maybe a little bit familiar. Parasite. We learned about parasites when we learned about worms, back whenever that was, forever ago. Okay, remember that's when they live in or on a host. So here is a really good example, birds living on top of a rhino. We can reference back to this later on. So mutualism. This is when both species are going to benefit. So we're going to do a little table later that shows happy and sad faces. In this example, both are going to be happy faces. So two species may actually depend on one another. It's not just that they're happy living next to each other. They actually might need each other in order to survive. So think of a bee and a flower. Right here's a picture of it so we can better picture what's going on. So let's think through this. We learned about bees and we learned about flowers. So flowers make pollen. You can see the pollen, all over this bee. It has little yellow dots all over it. So the flower needs to move that pollen in order to make new flower babies, in order to have children. Well, the bee needs to eat nectar. And flowers make nectar. So here's how this relationship works. The bee, let's call him Eugene. Eugene the bee. He's flying along and he smells something sweet. And he says, oh, there's a flower that has some food. I'm gonna go get myself some of that. So he buzzes on down there, little Eugene. He lands on the flower and he starts eating some of that nectar. He's got a very long tongue that goes down into the middle of the flower and he laps up, just like a dog, he laps up that nectar. So the bee is getting food. Happy face. Meanwhile, The flower you can see down here, these little yellow guys sticking up here. The flower has reached its stamens, those are the boy parts, way, way, way up. So that when the bee, Eugene, lands on the flower, those stamens touch the bee's belly. Now the bee is covered in pollen. So Eugene gets enough food and he flies off because he's, gets enough food. Oh, but Eugene is a sucker for a good flower. So he sees another flower, he comes landing down on it, starts lapping up that nectar. Now the pollen that came from that first flower is now being transferred to the second flower. Eugene is helping these two flowers have, air quotes, sex. He's moving the pollen from one flower to another, so both organisms are benefiting. The bee gets food, the flower gets sex. They both have a happy face. The next one's called commensalism. Big word, it's not that difficult though. So one benefits or is happy, and the other is neither harmed nor helped. They're unaffected. They don't really care what's going on. It's not good, it's not bad. So they kind of have a meh face, as I always describe it. So let's think of a bird building a nest in a tree, and then we'll talk about the shark as well. So a bird needs to build a nest because she wants to have a couple babies. Let's call her Suzanne. Suzanne wants to have little tiny babies. So she goes up to a nice pine tree, a nice conifer, and she builds a beautiful nest. And she lays some baby eggs, and then a couple months later, they fly off in happy days. The bird is happy because the tree provides protection. It provides food. It provides shade. It provides an umbrella when it rains. Does the tree really care that there's a bird in the tree? No. The tree is still going to be a tree. The tree is still going to stand there. It's still going to be green. It's still going to have branches. So the tree, doesn't care at all. So let's look at this shark and all these brave fishies swimming around here. So the shark goes off. We need a name for him. Larry. Larry the shark. So Larry's swimming around and he wants some food because you know how Larry is. He's just always hungry. So he goes and he finds some food and he eats it. And when sharks eat, they chomp up their food just a little bit. Not like we do. We pulverize our food. These guys just chomp it up a little bit. So he finds a nice, let's say, I'm trying to think of a good fish. I don't know any because I'm not a fisher person. But let's just say he finds a nice fish. He's chomping through it. Some of those fish parts, when he's chewing, are actually going to leave his gills. They're just going to kind of, when you're eating and you like drop a crumb or like one sprinkle doesn't go into your mouth and it falls in your pants and you're like, oh shoot, I got to get that before someone sees it. So that's what happens here. The shark is going to eat food. It's going to come out of his gills. All of these other fishies, these zebra fishies, that's not their real name. I'm just calling them that. All of these zebra fishies, they get to eat the scraps. They get to eat the stuff that exits its gills. So the shark gets food. And does the shark really care if these fish eat the little leftovers? No, he doesn't care because he got most of the food. If he eats 90% of that fish, he's good to go. All right, so that one's easy. Commensalism, one happy, one eh. And then we're going to fly through this one. Parasitism. It's a relationship that involves one organism living with, on, or inside another organism while harming it. The parasite does not usually kill the host or it would lose its shelter and food. So there's a ton of parasites out there. There's all types of worms, and we already learned about those. Okay, there's ticks. There's even more in fish and true animals, all the animals that you guys are thinking of in your head. But those are the two most prevalent ones that we need to talk about. So worms and ticks. So this is a tick, big and nasty and blech. That's So he is living on your skin for a short amount of time. He's taking your blood. He's doing what he needs to do. Maybe he's braiding your leg hair. Who knows? Okay. When he's done, he leaves. He wins. He's happy. He got food from you. Or let's think of a worm. Let's say there's a worm inside a dog. Like that video. Everyone remember that video? Good. So that worm is so happy. Food, water, shelter, all in the same place. What else do you need in life? The dog is getting harmed, though. The dog is getting malnourished or undernourished. The dog might actually feel uncomfortable. It might feel full, like it can't poop the whole way. It might feel just kind of gross. So parasitism, One's happy, the tick, and the other actually gets hurt. So we're going to look at this table here. We're going to fill it in. This is going to be a nice quick reference for you because we're going to do a really fun lab in a couple of days. And we're going to kind of play around with these. So we kind of have to understand them. So mutualism, remember that was the one where both are benefiting. So you're going to draw in 2 smiley faces because think back to the mutualism example. Okay, we had the bee and the flower. The bee got food, the flower had sex. Both are happy. Ding, ding. Commensalism. This is when one is happy and the other doesn't really care. So I give it a meh face. It's not happy. It's not sad. It's right there in the middle. So the commensalism example was the bird in the tree. The bird obviously is happy. He gets a nest. The tree doesn't care. Parasitism is the worm or the tick, and sadly, you. So the worm or the tick, totes happy. He gets food, water, shelter. Awesome. You are sad because you're getting hurt, or that dog is getting hurt, or a lot of deer have ticks. They're getting hurt. Now we're going to throw back predation and competition. We're going to throw both of those in here so you can review those as well. Predation. First one's happy. Think of that lion. Oh yeah, it gets food. Okay, think of the beetle that's eating on the tree or the plant. Totally happy. Awesome. Okay, think of the wolf, the fox, all of these big predators in life, the shark. The second organism, wah, wah, dead. They're dead. They're not happy. They're not sad. They're gone. So make sure you put the little X's on the eyes so you know they're dead. And then competition. I kind of described this one earlier. The first one is going to be sad, and the second one, because they're fighting. Fighting wastes a lot of energy. Fighting wastes a lot of resources. Fighting involves feelings getting hurt. Okay, so neither one is happy here. And you might think, well, Miss Riddle, if I get the trumpet solo, I'm happy. Yeah, we're different kind of animals. Okay, so think of 2 rams fighting in nature. Both of them are getting hurt because they're smacking their heads into each other. Or think of 2 bears fighting. They're clawing at each other and they're ripping big gashes into each other's skins. Both of them are getting hurt. Sure, one of them gets the girl, or sure, one of them gets the house, or not house, den, or sure, one of them gets the food, but they got all these cuts all over themselves. They had to fight. They had to waste energy for this competition. So you need to look on Google Classroom or up on the front board to figure out where you need to go next.